our estimated GFR, the normal GFR is about 120, and the normal renal plasma flow is about what? About 600. So by the time you multiply this by 100, it's going to give us what? 20%. So that means looking at the nephron, so the amount that has to be filtered there is going to be what? 20%. Okay. And then going to the what? Periturbal capillary to what? 80%. So is that clear, guys? From there, we move on to talk about the control of the afferent and the control of efferent. So this is our afferent arterioles, and this is our efferent. I'll say that what control the afferent arteriole is what? What control the afferent arteriole is what? Prostaglandin. And what control the efferent arteriole is what? Is angiotensin what? Angiotensin 2. Okay. And then we say we now mention specifically how does prostaglandin control the efferent arteriole. The effect of prostaglandin and the efferent arteriole actually causes what? At the afferent, sorry. At the afferent arteriole causes what? Afferent arteriole vasodilation. Is it clear? Whereby angiotensin 2 at the efferent arteriole, what's angiotensin 2 doing? Angiotensin 2 causes what? Efferent arteriole vasoconstriction. So now, let's start with this one first. So if you remember this formula from cardiovascular, you know I said that PQR, which means P equals what? Q times R. So if what does P stand for? P stand for pressure. Q stand for what? Flow. And R stand for what? Resistance. And then if we make Q the sort of formula, Q equal to what? P over R. And then what's our Q? Q is what? Is the flow. Is it clear? So that means if there's a decrease in resistance, what's after the flow? Increase. And if there's an increase in pressure, what's after the flow? Increase. Is it clear? I also established that resistance, which is R, is inversely proportional to what? To radius raised by what? 4. So that means if there's increase in radius, what's after the resistance? Decrease. And if the resistance is decreased, what's after the flow? Flow will be increased. Is it clear? So there will be increased what? Flow. So we now say that the effect of prostaglandin at the afferent arteriole. So what's prostaglandin doing? Prostaglandin causes what? Vasodilation. So by saying vasodilation, that means you are expanding the what? You are expanding the vessels. Is it clear? And what are you doing to the radius? You actually what? You are increasing the radius. And by increasing the radius, what are you doing to the resistance? You got this relationship, so the resistance to what? Decrease. And by decreasing the resistance, what are you doing to flow?
Increase flow.
We are increasing flow. Is okay. So that we have to have increase of blood flow through this afferent. So that means as blood flow is increasing, more blood will be getting to the what? To the glomerular what? Capillary. Is okay. So if you have more blood at the glomerular capillary, what pressure has to be increased there? So you have to have increased glomerular hydrostatic what? Pressure. So there will be increased glomerular hydrostatic pressure. And don't forget, in the morning we said that the major determinant of filtration is what? Glomerular hydrostatic pressure. So because of the increase in glomerular hydrostatic pressure, What's after the GFR? Increase. So the glomerular filtration rate is not what? So this is to lead to increase in what? Glomerular filtration was rate. Is it clear, guys? Are you following?
Yeah. Clear.
Yeah. So that's first thing we established. So we now say that, for instance, if somebody is taking a drug that's inhibiting production of prostaglandin, remember from there we went to talk about what's called the arachidonic pathway. So from membrane lipid, they actually convert it to what? To arachidonic what? Arachidonic acid. And by the help of what enzyme? By the help of phospholipase A2. And I said there are two phases of arachidonic acid. We can either convert arachidonic acid to leukotrienes, or we can use to make what? Prostaglandin. Okay. The prostaglandin and the what's called and a thrombosin. Thrombosin A2. Okay. And then the enzyme that allows us to convert arachidonic acid to leukotrienes was is a oxygenase. And the enzyme that allows us to convert arachidonic acid to prostaglandin is what? Cyclooxygenase. Is it clear? So we now say that one of the functions of this prostaglandin, as a matter of fact, the prostaglandin E, is that it causes what? Afferent, actually what? Vasodilation. So it causes afferent, actually what? Vasodilation. So if somebody is taking a drug that's inhibiting this cyclooxygenase, I cannot give an example of the drug. NSAIDs or what? Aspirin. So aspirin inhibits what? Cyclooxygenase. So by inhibiting cyclooxygenase, what can you do to prostaglandin production? Yeah. Now, so that means instead of having vasodilation, what are you going to be having? Vasoconstriction. And if you have vasoconstriction, what's after the radius?
Decrease radius.
Decrease radius. So that has to be decreasing what? Radius. And there's decreasing radius, what's after the resistance?
Increase radius.
Increase resistance. And there's increased resistance, what's after the flow? Decrease flow. So that we have to have decrease of blood through this afferent. And because there's decrease of blood, how much blood is going to be getting to the glomerular capillary? It's going to be decreased. Okay. So because it's decreased, what's after the glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure? Decrease. Okay. And because it's decreased, what's after the glomerular filtration rate? Decreases. Okay. So does it make sense? So that means this can actually lead to what? Renal impairment. So it can lead to renal what? Renal impairment. And that's why if someone is taking both NSAID, aspirin, or if someone is taking NSAID or aspirin along with acetaminophen, it can actually lead to what we call analgesic what? Analgesic nephropathy. So we have to talk about this one later. So it can lead to analgesic what? Nephropathy. Is it clear, guys? We have to do this. So we are talking about the efferent now. So what controls the efferent is what? Angiotensin 2. So what controls the efferent is what? Angiotensin 2. And how do we come across angiotensin 2? Remember we said that from the afferent arteriole. On the afferent arteriole we have what? Juxtal glomerular what? Cells. The JG cells. And what juxtal glomerular cells producing? It produces what? Renin. Okay, so juxtal glomerular cell produces what? Renin. And what's renin going to do now? So renin converts what? Angiotensinogen. So convert angiotensinogen to what? Angiotensin 1. Is okay. And angiotensin 1 is converted to angiotensin 2. And then for enzyme, angiotensin converted what? And this angiotensin 2 now can now come and work on the what? on the efferent artery. And what's this effect at the efferent actually is causing what? Vasoconstriction. So by causing vasoconstriction, what are you doing to the radius? Decreasing the radius. And by decreasing the radius, what are you doing to the resistance? We are increasing the resistance. And by increasing the resistance, what are you doing to the flow? We are decreasing the flow. So that means by decreasing the flow, just like for instance, let's say you have a hose here. Let's say we have a hose. Let's say this is the hose, like a pipe, and then we have water flowing through the pipe. But now we are now obstructing this place. We are obstructing this area. So by obstructing this area, what's have to flow through here? You have to decrease. So now we have to be having accumulation of fluid at the back here. Is it clear? But there has to be less fluid. There has to be less fluid in the front. Is it clear? But you have to have more fluid at the back here. So the same thing that is going on here. So there's vasoconstriction of the efferent artery. That means you have to have accumulation of blood there. Is it clear? And then by increasing the amount of fluid inside there, what pressure has to be increased? You have to have increasing glomerular hydrostatic pressure. And by having increased glomerular hydrostatic pressure, what's after the GFR? Increase. You have to have increase GFR. So that will be increase in GFR. Is it clear, everybody? Yeah. But for instance, let's somebody is taking a drug that inhibits angiotensin. And which drug inhibits angiotensin converting enzyme is what? Angiotensin converting enzyme was inhibitor, like what's called captopril. Yeah, it's inhibitor. Yeah, so like captopril. So what's that one doing? It inhibits what? It inhibits angiotensin 2, right? So by inhibiting angiotensin 2, so instead of having vasoconstriction, what are those be having? Vasodilation. So by having vasodilation, what are you doing to the radius? Radius. And by increasing the radius, what are you doing to the resistance? Decrease resistance. And by decreasing resistance, what are you doing to the flow? We are increasing flow. And by increasing flow, that means more fluid is moving away, right? As more fluid is moving out from here, what's after the fluid that we have inside the glomerular capillary? Increase or decrease? It's decreasing. It's going to decrease. Okay. And by decreasing, what are you doing to the filtration, glomerular filtration rate here? Decreasing. Why? Because we are decreasing now. We are decreasing glomerular hydrostatic pressure. Now to decrease the glomerular filtration rate. Is it clear? Bilateral renal artery stenosis. If somebody has bilateral renal artery stenosis, that means it's a form of vasoconstriction. Stenosis means it's kind of constricted, right? So that means it's a form of vasoconstriction. And by causing vasoconstriction, what are you doing to the radius? We are decreasing radius. And by decreasing radius, what are you doing to the resistance? We are increasing resistance. And by increasing resistance, what are you doing to the flow? Decreasing the flow. So because we are decreasing the flow, now what's our amount of fluid? Our amount of blood volume that we get into the glomerular capillary. Yes. So that we have to have decreasing amount of fluid of blood that we get to the glomerular capillary. And because decrease of blood get to the glomerular capillary, what's after the glomerular hydrostatic pressure? So we have to have decreasing glomerular hydrostatic pressure. Is okay. And because decreasing glomerular hydrostatic pressure, what's after the GFR? Decrease we have to have decrease GFR. Does that make sense, guys? And then how is our body going to compensate? Now we say that anytime there's decreased blood flow to the kidney, what are you producing from the JG cells? They are producing renal. And at the end of the day, we have to have angiotensin 2. And when is angiotensin 2 working? It works on the efferent artery. And what's it doing at the efferent artery? Because it so angiotensin 2 now going to lead to vasoconstriction of the afferent Actually, I was able to lead to is going to decrease what? Flow. So by decreasing flow, that means you have to have accumulation. Remember, blood is not easily, they are not passing through here very well. So that they have to be accumulating at the back here. Is it clear? So what are we increasing now? Remember, initially we have double arrow decreasing glomerular and start pressure, but because of now build up of blood here, it's going to increase a little bit. So instead of having double arrow decrease for glomerular and start pressure, we have to have what? Just one arrow what? Decrease for glomerular what? At the start pressure. Is it clear? And remember, what are you going to have now? What after the glomerular filtration rate? You're also going to what? Increase. Why? Because there's kind of like increase in what? Glomerular at the start pressure. So having double arrow decrease for glomerular filtration rate, we have to have what? Single arrow decrease for what? Glomerular filtration rate. Is it clear? Yeah. So the question I now ask that if you look at this patient, you can see what's maintaining the GFR in this patient is what? Is this effect of angiotensin and what? And the efferent was actually. So what maintains the glomerular filtration rate is what? The effect of angiotensin 2 at what? And the efferent was actually, because you can see is one that tries to increase the glomerular hydrostatic pressure and tries to increase the glomerular filtration rate back to what? Back to normal. Are you following, guys? So that means which drug is contradicted in these patients? So the drug that is contraindicated in this patient is what? Angiotensin converter was enzyme inhibitor. So ACE inhibitor is contraindicated in what? Bilateral renal artery what? Stenosis. Why? Because if somebody is taking ACE inhibitor, what is it doing? It inhibits what? Angiotensin 2. And by inhibiting angiotensin 2, instead of having vasoconstriction, what are we going to be having? Vasodilation. And by having vasodilation, what's out of the flow through here?
Decrease.
Increase of flow through what? To the efferent. And because the increased flow through the efferent, what's out of the glomerular? What's out of the glomerular hydrostatic pressure? Decrease. Because of decreasing what? Glomerular hydrostatic pressure. So that will now decrease what? The glomerular what? Filtration rate. So that means what are we going to have now? So by removing this effect now, we have to come back here. Yeah?
Why would there be decrease in glomerular hydrostatic pressure?
Remember, if you are causing vasodilation here, what's after the flow through here? Increase. So that means all these fluid that are supposed to be accumulating here, what are they doing? They're moving out, right? So if they are moving out now, all the fluid inside the glomerular capillary, what are they doing? They're flowing out, right? So what's the amount of fluid inside the glomerular capillary? It's going to be less. Is that not true?
Okay. Yeah.
So if it's less, what's out of the glomerular hydrostatic pressure? Decrease. Because the glomerular hydrostatic pressure is what? Is the fluid inside there. So if the glomerular hydrostatic pressure is decreased, what's out of the glomerular filtration rate? It's going to decrease. They're going to be increased. But we are talking about efferent.
Okay.
If we are talking about afferent, if you cause vasodilation of the afferent, more blood will come to this area.
Yes.
And because more blood is coming to here, what after the glomerular filtration rate increase? But if there's more flow through here, that means all this blood are supposed to stay there. What are they doing? They're flowing out.
Okay.
So you have to be sure which one are we talking about. Is it afferent or efferent?
Oh, okay.
So does it make sense now?
Yeah.
So this patient, so by taking ACE inhibitor, this patient is actually in a bad shape. Like two problems together. One, there is decrease in the amount of blood that is coming here in the first place, because remember I asked bilateral renal artery stenosis, right? So there is decrease in the amount of blood that is coming to the glomerular capillary. That's one. And two, is now taking a drug that is causing efferent vasodilation. So that means the little blood that is coming here, what are they doing? They're moving out. Is it clear? So that means his own GFR now will be way what? Decrease. And that can lead to what? Renal. That can lead to what? Renal failure. Is it clear, guys? Is it? So now let's talk about the second example. So the second example that I gave was patient with what? Diabetic mellitus. Okay. In diabetic mellitus, there are two pathogenesis that explain all the damages that we see in what's called in diabetes. The first one is non-enzymatic what? Glycosylation. And the second one is what? Osmotic what? Osmotic damage. And if you want to know where actually, so the first one is non-enzymatic glycosylation. So let's talk about, actually let's start with osmotic damage. But normally we said in our body, the excess glucose inside the cell, so the excess glucose that we have, they are converted to what? They are converted to sorbitol by the help of what enzyme? By the help of hardness reductase. And the thing about this sorbitol, we say that is what? It's an osmotic what? Agent or osmotic substance. And what does that mean? It means that wherever they are, what do they do? So for instance, say it's here. What is it to be doing? You hold on to what? Water. Is it clear? So you want to hold on to what? Water. So you pull water to the cell. Is it clear? And they will say that sorbitol is further converted to what? Fructose. Is it clear? By the help of what enzyme?
Sorbitol dehydrogenase.
Sorbitol what?
Dehydrogenase.
And the good thing about fructose is that fructose is not trapped in the what? In the cell. So you can easily what? Diffuse out from the cell. Is it clear? But the bad thing about is that there are some cells that they lack sorbitol dehydrogenase. So because they lack sorbitol dehydrogenase, that means the only thing they have to be stopped with is what? Sorbitol. Is it clear? And what are the cells? Well, you mentioned what? You mentioned the lens. And then explain with in diabetes they can have what? One of the risk factor is what? For cataract is what? Is diabetic. Is it clear? So diabetic can lead to what? Cataract. Second is retina, and that is why they can develop what? Retinopathy. Is it clear? In diabetic. Third one is what? Is the Schwann cells. Now I said that Schwann cells myelinate what? Myelinate the peripheral what? Neurons. And what's the essence of myelination? The essence of myelination is to increase what? Increase signals, and what's called transmission through the what? Through the nerves, right? Because if the myelin is no more there, what's happened? The way signal is moving going to be very slow. Is it clear? And that explains why in diabetic we have what? Peripheral what? Neuropathy. Is it clear? And the fourth one where we have lack of sorbitol dehydrogenase is what? Is the kidney. Sorbitol dehydrogenase, we have to have accumulation of what? Of sorbitol. Is it clear? And what sorbitol going to be doing there? So we have accumulation of sorbitol. What do you say sorbitol is? Sorbitol is an osmotic what? Agent. So that means it's going to favor what? Movement of water into the what? Into the what? Into the lumen, into the tube. Is it clear? So by doing that, what are you doing to the GFR?
Increasing
the GFR. Is it clear? That's one. Two. So the second one is what's called. The second thing they also explain what's called the diet that we see in DM is what? The non-enzymatic what? Glycosylation. Is it clear? And what non-enzymatic glycosylation means? It means adding glucose plus protein without using what? Without using what? Enzyme. No enzyme is involved. So that's why they call it non-enzymatic what? Glycosylation. Is it clear? And one of the protein that we can glycosylate is hemoglobin. Remember, hemoglobin is inside the what? Inside the RBC. So you know hemoglobin, right? So if hemoglobin is glycosylated, we call it what? HbA1c. So HbA1c is what? glycosylated what?
Hemoglobin.
Hemoglobin. Is it clear? And normally, what's the half-life of RBC? Remember, the half-life of RBC is what?
120 days.
120 what? Days. So that means this HbA1c, this glycosylated hemoglobin, you need to tell me how the sugar is doing for the past what? 3 to 4 months. Is it clear? So tell us how the sugar, what the glucose level has been within what? Between 3 to 4 months. Is it clear? And this actually is a very good test because it tells us about the long-term control of the sugar. Because for instance, there are some patients, once they know that they come to the doctor's office in 2 weeks time or in 1 week's time, what would they be doing? They stay away from what? They stay away from sugar. Is it clear? So that by the time they come to you, by the time you do their GMR will be so perfect. Is it clear? But by the time you do the HbA1c, you want to tell you if they are what? So let's continue. Very good. So this tells us about how the sugar is doing for the past what? 123 to 4 months. Is it clear? So that's why we order what? HbA1c. Is it clear, guys? Yeah. And then another effect of this non-respiratory glycation is that at the basement membrane in the what's called the endothelium, in the what's called in the arterioles, it can actually damage it along with the basement membrane there. And as it's damaging them, inside the plasma, remember normally inside plasma you have plasma protein. Is that not true? So you have plasma protein. So all those plasma protein now, because of the damage, for instance, let's say that's the vessel. So let's say this is the endothelium that is lining the vessel. So because of damage to this endothelium and the basement membrane, what happens is that all this plasma protein now, they're not escaping to the what? They're escaping to the wall. Is it clear? So they escape to the wall of the blood vessel. So by escaping to the wall of the blood vessel, it becomes so thickening. Is it clear? And they become narrow. Is it clear? And this process is what we call what? Iling. And what does the word iling means? Iling means the appearance, the way it actually appears, because of the proteinaceous, it actually appears like a pink. So because of the proteinaceous deposition of the what? On the blood vessel. So proteinaceous material deposition on the blood vessel, that's where iling comes from. Is clear? So we now call it arteriolar what? Sclerosis. Is clear? And when they call it arteriolar because it's affecting the small blood vessel, and they call it sclerosis because of the what? Of the thickening. Remember, sclerosis means like thickening of what? Of the vessel. And then because of that, what to lead to? You know, to lead to what? Constriction of this area of the afferent artery. Is it clear? And what of the constriction now? What's after the flow through here? What's after the radius? Let's start with the radius. What after the radius now? The radius are decreased. And what after the flow through here?
Decrease as well.
Decrease. And what on the decrease in flow? That means all those fluids that are inside there, they're not able to pass. There is going to be very difficult for them to pass through. And those fluids now will now accumulate inside the space. So those fluids will accumulate inside the what? Glomerular capillary. And because they accumulate inside the glomerular capillary, what pressure needs to be elevated? Glomerular hydrostatic pressure. And because the increase in glomerular hydrostatic pressure, what's after the filtration here? Increase. And that was why I said that the first thing that we see in the what's called progression of nephropathy in DM, the first thing we see in progression of nephropathy, so diabetic nephropathy, the first thing we see is what? Hyperfiltration. And what explains the hyperfiltration? One is the subital accumulation in the what? In the tubule, thereby favoring more water coming in. And second one is what? Is the non-enzymatic glycation what? Of the efferent what? Artery, thereby increasing what? Glomerular what? Hydrostatic pressure, thereby increasing what? Filtration. Is it clear? And that explains why they have to be actually be peeing a lot. Is it clear? They keep going to the bathroom every time. Is it clear? Are you following, guys? That's one of the time you see there is what? Polyuria. What? Hyperfiltration. And just imagine too much of filtration going on here. So if too much of filtration is going on with time, we have to damage the what? We'll be damaging the what? the glomerular. Is it clear? As we are done the glomerular capillary, what happen now? Now normally, remember, normally we don't filter albumin. So now what is going to pass into is what? Albumin. Okay. So that means the next thing now we have to have what? Micro what? Micro albuminous urea. Okay. And that's why if you see a patient that has microalbuminuria, a patient with diabetes that has microalbuminuria, the next drug to put them on is what? To put them on was on AC was inhibitor. And now AC inhibitor working, remember it decreased production was angiotensin was 2. So by decreasing production of angiotensin 2, instead of vasoconstriction, what are you going to be having? So you have to be having was vasodilation. Is it clear? And by causing vasodilation, what's after the flow through here? So now to what? Increase flow. And by increasing the flow through here, what are you doing to the amount of fluid inside here? Decrease. And what are you doing to the start pressure inside here? Decrease. And what are you doing to filtration? Decrease. So and that's why ACE inhibitors was renal protective in patient was diabetic. Is it clear? But is it going to do the final job? No. You still have to keep the sugar was under control because it's not decreasing the structure there. Is it clear? So for instance, let's say this patient is not taking care of their sugar and is still continuing to increase. With time then to continuous damage to the glomerulus. Is it clear? And then without that going to be having, instead of micro now they start having what? Proteinuria. And that's why I say that when they have proteinuria, your goal now is not to decrease their sugar. Your goal is actually to keep their blood pressure what? Under control. Because if you remember, we said that flow equals to pressure divided by what? So if there's increase in pressure, what's after the flow? Increase. So that means if the pressure is increased, the flow will be increased and the GFR will increase. So that means more protein will be filtered. Is it clear? And if care is not taken, they can go into the what? They can go into the last stage, which is what? End stage was renal disease. And the most common cause of end stage renal disease in the United States is what? Is DM. Is it clear? Followed by what? Hypertension. Is it clear, guys?